Hello, it's me. Welcome to my channel. Let's look at some remarkable events in American history. Which event would you choose? Number 10. The landing of the Pilgrims at Plymouth Rock in 1620, or the signing of the Declaration of Independence in 1776? Well, both are important. In fact, I think you should know about all 10 events on this list. They are America's defining moments. Have you ever visited Boston? If so, did you visit the site of the Boston Massacre? Have you heard about the Boston Tea Party? What do you know about Paul Revere's Midnight Ride? Do you think those events led inevitably to the shot heard round the world at Lexington and Concord? How much do you remember from your school history books? How much do you want to learn? This is a great list to review if you're studying for an American history test or just want to brush up on your knowledge of key historical moments. And if you learned something new, tell us about it in the comments below. Also, before we get started, remember to give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and click the bell to enable all notifications. We bring you new videos every day. Number 10. The Mayflower Compact, 1620. This was a critical moment that established self-government in the New World. The Pilgrims had sailed from England on the Mayflower, and after a perilous journey arrived off the coast of what is now Massachusetts. There was no one to greet them and show them around when they landed. In fact, no one was ashore. The indigenous people were inland. So what did they do? They drew up a document creating a government for their colony. It was called the Mayflower Compact. Each male settler was to have a voice in the compact, which was basically a social contract. This was a new way of governing. And the Mayflower Compact is considered an important precursor to the Constitution. Number 9. The Salem Witch Trials, 1692. Fear and hysteria gripped the small Puritan village of Salem, Massachusetts. Accusations flew, and 5 men and 19 women were accused of practicing witchcraft. A special court was set up to hear the cases, and 9 of those accused were found guilty. 2 others, Giles Corey and Martha Carrier, died before their trials even started. They refused to plead guilty or not guilty, so they were pressed to death with heavy stones. 5 more accused witches died in prison awaiting trial. 1 man, John Proctor, was hanged. But later, public opinion turned against the witch trials, and they were ended. Governor William Phipps pardoned the remaining prisoners, and compensation was paid to the families of those who had been executed. Number 8. The French and Indian War, 1754-1763. This war was part of a larger global conflict known as the 7 Years' War. For North America, the war pitted the British against the French and their Indian allies. The result, Britain won. They gained vast territories in North America. This included Canada, the Ohio Valley, and lands east of the Mississippi River. The cost of the war, however, put a severe strain on Britain's finances. And after the conflict, they imposed new taxes on their North American colonies to help pay off the debt. Naturally, the colonists weren't thrilled about this idea. Number 7. The Boston Massacre, 1770. Tensions between the American colonists and the British soldiers stationed in Boston reached a boiling point. On March 5, 1770, a group of colonists began taunting and throwing snowballs at 2 British soldiers. Soon more soldiers arrived and a crowd gathered. Someone shouted, "Fire!" and the soldiers fired into the crowd. 5 colonists were killed. The incident was widely publicized by the colonists and used to denounce British rule. The event was also depicted in a famous painting by Paul Revere. Number 6. The Boston Tea Party, 1773. This was a major turning point in the growing conflict between Britain and its American colonies. The British East India Company was facing financial difficulties. To help save the company, Parliament passed the Tea Act in 1773. The act gave the company a monopoly on the tea trade in the colonies. This meant that the colonists could no longer buy tea from other merchants at lower prices. They would have to pay higher prices for tea imported directly from Britain. Colonists protested, arguing that they should have the right to buy tea from whomever they chose. On December 16, 1773, members of the Sons of Liberty snuck onto 3 British ships docked in Boston Harbor and dumped 92,000 pounds of tea into the water. This bold act of defiance showed that the colonists were willing to take drastic measures to protect their rights. Number 5. Paul Revere's Midnight Ride, April 1775. This famous event is a pivotal moment in American history. On the night of April 18, 1775, Paul Revere rode his horse through the countryside around Boston, alerting the colonial militia that British troops were on the move. Revere and two others, William Dawes and Samuel Prescott, set out to warn John Hancock and Samuel Adams that British troops were coming to arrest them. All three were successful in alerting the Patriots, and this gave the colonists time to prepare for the coming conflict. Prescott's midnight ride is often overshadowed by Paul Revere's ride, but he too played an important role in the American Revolution. Number 4. The Battles of Lexington and Concord, April 1775. These battles are considered the first military engagements of the American Revolutionary War. On April 19, 1775, British troops marched from Boston to Concord to seize colonial military supplies. They were met by colonial militiamen at Lexington and Concord, and fighting broke out. At Lexington, British troops fired into the militia, killing 8 men. At Concord, the British seized some gunpowder and shot. Then they retreated back to Boston. The battles of Lexington and Concord marked the beginning of the American War for Independence. Number 3. The Declaration of Independence, July 1776. This document is one of the most important in American history. On July 4, 1796, the Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence, which declared the 13 American colonies independent from British rule. The Declaration was written by Thomas Jefferson and argued that all men are created equal and have certain unalienable rights, including the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The document also listed the many grievances the colonists had against King George II. The signing of the Declaration of Independence was a bold statement that set the stage for the American Revolution. Number 2. The Battle of Saratoga, October 1777. This battle is considered a turning point in the American Revolutionary War. From October 1777 to October 1778, British General John Burgoyne led his troops from Canada to the Hudson River. He hoped to cut off New England from the rest of the colonies, but his troops were defeated by American forces led by General Horatio Gates and Benedict Arnold. The victory at Saratoga convinced France to enter the war on the side of the Americans. With French support, the Americans were able to win the war. Number 1. The Constitutional Convention, 1787. This convention is considered one of the most important events in American history. In 1787, delegates from 12 states met in Philadelphia to revise the Articles of Confederation. They soon realized, however, that the articles were too flawed to be repaired. So they decided to draft a new constitution. The result was the United States Constitution, which established a new form of government for the United States. The Constitution established a federal republic with a strong central government and a system of checks and balances among the 3 branches of government. The Constitution has been amended 27 times, and is the oldest written national constitution still in use today. Well, that brings our list to a close. But remember, you can always visit our site to find more amazing stories like these. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell to enable all notifications. We bring you new videos every day. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. What would you choose, number 10 or number 1? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching.